Melody Shari always made it look effortless. Balancing motherhood, running businesses, and showing up on reality TV, she handled it all like a pro. To fans, she was unstoppable. That woman who walked away from a broken marriage, rebuilt her life, and turned pain into power. When she entered a room, you felt it. Her presence was strong, her confidence unshakable. But what no one saw was how long she'd been standing on the edge, quietly struggling, silently falling apart behind closed doors. For years, people noticed small things. She looked thinner, more tired, leaving events early or skipping them altogether. Most people assumed it was stress, the grind of work, or the weight of single motherhood. And because Melody always smiled, stayed active, and kept delivering, no one thought twice. Why would they? She never gave a reason to look deeper. She hid it well. But by early 2024, that mask started to slip. Not in public, not on the show, but when the cameras were off. At home, the fatigue became unbearable. It wasn't just being tired anymore, it was the kind of exhaustion that made everyday tasks feel impossible. Her skin broke out in painful rashes. Her sharp mind started to blank out mid-sentence. And worst of all, her children began noticing. That changed everything. For Melody, being vulnerable had never been an option. Vulnerability was dangerous. In her world, people twisted your pain, used your weakness as gossip, and turned your truth into content. So she kept going, forcing herself to smile, to film, to show up even when her body begged her to rest. She prayed quietly, telling herself she could handle it. But her body had other plans. One night, while cooking dinner, her body gave out. She collapsed on the floor right in front of her kids. Her daughter's terrified voice asking, "Mommy, are you okay?" was more painful than any symptom. That was her breaking point. Not because she feared for her own life, but because she was scared her children might lose the one person who had always fought for them. After that moment, she pulled back. She stopped making live videos. Her weekly Melody Mondays disappeared. Brand deals were quietly paused. Fans noticed her absence, but assumed she was just taking time off. A vacation maybe. They had no idea she was dealing with something far more serious. Soon after, doctors gave her a name for what had been stealing her energy and strength: lupus. An autoimmune disease that doesn't go away. It attacks your body from the inside, causing pain, inflammation, and deep fatigue. Lupus doesn't care if you're famous. It doesn't stop for business deals or film schedules. It doesn't make room for motherhood. It just hits and keeps hitting. Deciding to share this publicly was one of the hardest choices Melody ever made. It wasn't for sympathy or headlines. It was because pretending to be okay was now more dangerous than telling the truth. She knew people might judge. She knew some might twist it. But she also knew she had to be real. So, one day, she sat down, no makeup, no fancy clothes, just her, alone in her living room. Her hands trembled as she held the phone. She took a deep breath and said, "I've been hiding something from y'all." That one sentence sent shockwaves through her fanbase. What followed was a raw, emotional video where she revealed everything. "I've been diagnosed with lupus," she said softly. Her voice broke. She paused, gathered herself, and went on. "I didn't know how to say it without falling apart." In that moment, Melody wasn't a reality star or a brand. She was a mother. A woman fighting a battle no one had seen. She talked about the pain, the sleepless nights, the memory lapses, the skin problems, the fear. She explained how she'd kept filming through flare-ups and exhaustion so her kids wouldn't worry. And how hiding the truth was destroying her more than the illness itself. To her surprise, the backlash never came. The love did. The internet lit up with support. Celebrities, friends, fans, even strangers began sharing their own lupus stories. Hashtags like Healing with Melody started trending. People called her brave. They called her inspiring. She had no idea how many others were suffering in silence too. Her honesty gave them permission to speak. But while the world showed her grace, someone from her past chose a different path. Martell Holt, Her ex-husband and the father of her 4 children filed for full custody. His reason? Her illness. According to leaked court documents, Martel claimed that Melody's health made her unfit to care for the kids. He pointed to her fatigue, her doctor appointments, and her reduced work schedule as evidence. It was like a slap in the face. Melody had feared something like this all along. That her truth, her illness, would one day be used against her. And now, it was happening. She didn't respond online. No angry posts. No interviews. But those close to her said she was devastated not because she believed she'd lose her kids, but because the man who once promised to protect her had turned her health into a weapon. That betrayal hurt more than anything Lupus ever did. The courtroom was cold. So was the way Martel looked at her, as if she were an opponent, not the mother of his children. But Melody came prepared. Her legal team had letters from teachers, glowing school reports, family members, and even doctors. One physician noted that Melody was not just capable, she was thriving, despite her condition. They explained that her stress came from hiding the illness, not from living with it. Martel's lawyers tried to paint her as unstable, pointing to her absence from social media and pauses in work. But the case was weak. The facts showed Melody was still deeply involved in her children's lives. She didn't miss events. She kept up routines. She was present even when her body was failing her. In the end, Melody didn't just defend herself, she reminded the world who she truly is. Not a woman seeking pity, but a mother fighting for her peace. A survivor. And when the dust settled, fans knew exactly what mattered. Melody's strength didn't come from pretending she was okay, it came from finally telling the truth. And that truth? It made her more powerful than ever. Melody didn't fold under pressure. When it was finally her chance to speak in court, she stood firm. Calm. Graceful. There were no tears, no shaky voice, just honesty. She spoke from the heart, not as someone trying to prove anything, but as a mother who knew her worth. She shared how, even on nights when her body burned with fever, she still made breakfast the next morning. How she'd help her kids with homework, drive them to school, show up for their activities, all while dealing with a body that constantly betrayed her. She admitted it wasn't easy. But giving up was never an option. She told the court how she planned her medical appointments around her children's lives, making sure they never felt the weight of her illness. She didn't ask for pity. She didn't speak like someone defeated. Melody simply explained how her love for her kids had pushed her to keep going even when she felt like breaking. Then the judge looked her in the eye and asked, "Do you believe your illness stops you from being a safe and present parent?" She looked up without hesitation and said, "No, Your Honor. If anything, it's made me fight harder to live for them." And in that moment, the courtroom fell silent. Not because of drama, but because everyone could feel the truth in her words. There was no faking that kind of strength. By the end of the hearing, the judge ruled in favor of joint custody, with Melody keeping primary physical custody of the children. It was more than just a legal win. It was a reminder that her strength, her consistency, and her love had spoken louder than any accusation ever could. But Melody didn't come out of it untouched. The pain didn't end with the judge's decision. The damage wasn't in the outcome, it was in the fact that she had to fight for something that should have never been questioned. People close to her said she went quiet again after court. Not because she was embarrassed, but because she was exhausted. The stress made her lupus worse. Her body flared up. She felt drained on every level, mentally, emotionally, physically. For years, she had been pushing herself to stay strong for everyone else. After the trial, there was just nothing left to give. That's when she finally paused. Not for show. Not for the cameras. But for real healing. Melody started turning inward. She stepped away from filming. Declined some offers. She gave herself permission to rest when her body needed it. Therapy became part of her weekly life. So did setting boundaries. And slowly, something shifted. She started recording pieces of her journey, not for fans, but for herself. Quiet reflections. Honest moments. Now, a new chapter is coming. A documentary series not about fame, but about truth. About living with pain, raising children through it, healing on your own terms, and finding peace after chaos. Melody isn't just surviving. She's evolving, and she's doing it out loud. Thanks for watching, fam. Stay real, stay respectful in the comments, and remember, sometimes silence isn't peace, it's preparation. See y'all in the next video. This is Celeb Nova, where the drama ends, and the truth begins.